Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Dear Sangha and all practitioners, it is now time at noon for us to have Dharma discussion, sharing our experience as well as to provide feedback for the activities of our temple so that our practice will beneficial from our practice, strengthen our belief in the mind and practice more diligently, practice the right way and not getting controlled by our ignorance and attachment. Our practice has to be uninterrupted all the time. Our Buddha provided skillful means to teach us from indirect to direct, from the supportive things to the main things we have to do for the purposes of birth and death. If we take things for granted and not pay attention, close attention to the rules and precepts provided by the Buddha and the patriarch, if we just follow our own likings and chase after the ignorance, we will disappoint our Buddha and patriarch and ourselves. So we have to be very diligent and careful, starting from our thought, our speech, and our action. Always remember to return to the practice. That is the way to pay tribute to the three jewels and our family and all sentient beings. That is something we want to remind everyone. So if anyone have any question or want to discuss their experience, feel free to bring up your question. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Dear thầy, dear our singer and Dharma friends, my karmic habits start to come back when I listen to the questions that is similar to the one that were raised before. I started to think, oh, this is a similar question. I should just practice instead. So when I think like that, I start asking the question. I still hear what you're teaching, but not clearly, and I all of a sudden I fall into sleepiness, and this keep repeats for the past few days. When I listen to the Dharma talk, I feel sleepy, and when I do sitting meditation, I also feel sleepy as well. Could you please help me with this? Thầy said the habits of sleepiness or excitement always challenge our practice is because our belief in the true mind is not complete. And when the belief is not enough, then our thought of birth and death either cannot be raised or it won't be strong. So we tend to just base on our knowledge instead of having true belief. When we have the right belief in ourselves, that can help us lead to the right belief in the self nature. We still are influenced by the habits of superstitions, of ignorance and attachment. Whenever we prioritize the support of others instead of belief in ourselves, that is a superstitious belief. If we have the right, if we have complete belief in the true mind, then everything will be the Dharma. But when the belief is not enough, then we will discriminate between one versus another. For example, if someone say, I like to listen to the live talk instead of the recorded talk, I want to practice in quiet instead of in motion. All of those are still discrimination. When someone have complete belief, whatever they hear, even just whether a noisy thing or a quiet thing, they will always be awakened. Everything turns into Dharma. So the Buddha and the patriarch use the words to explain to us that those are just the skillful means. But if we are not able to truly understand the skillful means, we will be controlled by those and start raising attachment. So the important thing for a practitioner is to find a way to raise the thought of birth and death. But that thought of birth and death, we have to rely on the practice. When we practice stronger, the practice becomes stronger. The thought of birth and death will also become stronger. And when that thought of birth and death is strong enough, then all of the discrimination or attachment won't be able to, won't be able to touch or won't be able to challenge that thought of birth and death. If we are careful, just like we are walking on a blade of a sword, or we are careful like we are walking right at the edge of a mountain, if we careful like that, we won't let ourselves fall into sleepiness, or won't let ourselves fall into the state of excitement or distraction. Because if we make one mistake, we will die right away. But for us, in our case, we're not that careful. We still don't have enough belief in the mind. We say we practice, but we don't really practice. And that's why we're still controlled by the sleepiness. So now that you recognize you easily fall into sleepiness, you have to find a way to get it straight, and find a way to help the thought of birth and death to be stronger. And when that thought of birth and death is strong enough, then all of the other habits, ignorance, attachment, when they come, they will be back out right away. So that thought of birth and death is like an armor that protects you. So when you recognize your mistake, you just need to find a way to fix the mistake to help your practice improve. Cô said she understand, and thank you, Master.
Dạ, con kính thưa thầy và kính thưa đại chúng. Như thầy nói là
Chị Tâm
mình
has a
không có
question.
tu về
Dear Thầy,
công phu
dear
xuyên suốt,
everyone.
thì con thấy con nhìn thấy
Like
con
you
không biết
said,
công phu xuyên
when we
suốt là
practice, we
là
have
để làm
to,
gì.
our practice have to
Thầy
be
nói
uninterrupted.
công
But
việc tùm
in
lum
my
tùm la
case,
hết,
I could
rất là
not,
nhiều nhiều luôn á.
uh,
Cho nên chị rất
my
là ngại
practice
hỏi
cannot be
không có cái giờ
uninterrupted
nào
yet
ngồi
because there
thiền
are
đâu mà
still a lot of work,
không có làm cái gì.
a lot of
Thì cũng
external
kiểu
conditions.
nói mà
Only
thiền
when
suốt
I
ngày 24
sit
tiếng
down and
thì
practice
chắc là
only, not doing
vẫn chưa có
anything,
được.
then I will be able
Phải
to make
tự
it
tập làm sao mà
continuous.
với
But
lại
for
nói thật là
24/7,
con cũng
I won't,
biết
I still haven't reached that
cả
level
đều là
yet.
vô thường, lúc nào con cũng niệm niệm nhớ cái điều đó hết, cho dù mình có
I
sung sướng
always keep in
khổ
mind
cỡ nào đi
that
nữa thì con
everything
cũng
is impermanent.
hiểu đây
Doesn't matter
chỉ
how
là tạm bợ thôi.
lucky I am
Con
right
cũng
now or
cố
how
gắng giữ công phu,
um,
nhưng mà nói
unfortunate I have to
để
go
cho xuyên
through.
suốt như thầy
All of
nói
these are just
chắc còn
impermanent.
xa lắm.
And I try to my
Kính
best
thầy
to
chỉ dạy
keep my practice uninterrupted, but to reach the level that you mentioned, I feel like I still have a long way to go. Can you please teach me more on this? When Thầy said, this uninterrupted, this thorough that we talk about is ending attachment all the time, ending discrimination all the time. Right now, when we say that we don't attach, and we even when we say that saying, it means we are still attached. Or when we say we don't discriminate, it means we actually discriminate. And because we have attachment and discrimination, that's why we generate various type of thoughts. So it's easy to say, to not discriminate, to not attach, but it's in reality, it's not easy to do. The Buddha always said to always contemplate prajna, to always practice prajna. Prajna means non-duality, and when non-duality means there won't be the thought of discrimination. Or when we say motion versus motionless is the same, it's also a way, a skillful means to help us not be dragged by the noisy state or the quiet state. Or when the patriarch said to go to the stage of no discriminating thought, it's always referring to going to the stage of Huatou. But people attached to those definition of Huatou, definition of doubt, and therefore they still not be able to put down their attachment. So when we are doing things in our life, we still have to think. For example, when we do cooking or when we're driving, we still have to think what we should do. But once we already figure out what we should do, then we should go back to practice instead of let our mind continuously wandering with other thought like whether we should go or should not go, whether and the thought about the past, the future, etc. Like those thoughts keep lead us to more and more thoughts. And then coupled with the conditions around us, it plunges us further into illusions. For example, we plan to cook this dish already, but when we go to the groceries, we start come up with other dishes. And then when we come back home, we saw some of the old food in the fridge. We start to think, oh, I should cook other dishes to utilize this old food. So all of those thoughts create more afflictions. So those are examples of us tend to chasing the external and not clear about our habits, our discrimination and attachment that keep lead to more and more thoughts and confuse us about what is the main thing and what is important and what not important. If you attach to discrimination, it's also a kind of discrimination. When we say we need to end attachment, but we just say it continuously, it's a type of attaching to ending attachment as well. So in all kinds of situations, we just need to raise the question in order to raise the doubt. And even if you raise a question, the doubt cannot be raised. It's still a way to help you remind you about the practice and come back to meditating. The doubt should come natural from us raising the question. And when we contemplate the prajna, it will naturally lead us to the stage of no discrimination. In the past, the king still be able to get awakened, or the superior official, no matter how busy they were, they still be able to reach awakening. Or even the lady who sells the bakery, having to wake up early in the morning, she still be able to awaken. You know, because she needs to make money to support her family. And also, she wants to cook vegan dishes to help people eat less meat. You know, because of their wish, they start to they try to make it. They try to work, right, but they still do it based on their own capacity, not forcing it too much. But thanks to them not attaching or not discriminating, it leads them to big achievement. Same thing when we do the cooking. Maybe today we cook too much. We can make changes tomorrow. And tomorrow maybe we cook too little. We can start make change to the next day. We don't need to forcefully do it. Like we don't need to, like force people to drink everything or eat everything to make sure there's no leftover, etc. For example, some people, because of their sickness, they could not eat. So don't worry, don't be sad or don't worry about that. So from morning to night, we have a lot of work. But as long as we don't attach and don't discriminate, we still be able to practice. if we don't attach to the practice, we actually don't really practice. But if we don't attach to the practice, we actually practice all the time. If we discriminate between practice and work, we're going to be limited to the time that we could practice. If we discriminate between the forms of practicing, we also limited to how we can practice, sitting is also practice. Working is also practice. We should not attach to the posture, etc. Also, don't attach too much to the question. Don't think that only when there is the question that is considered practice. The more important thing is the doubt. So if we're familiar with the practice and we master the practice, then doesn't matter which situation we are in, we will always be able to practice. But if we attach to, certain forms, certain state, that would be such a waste. She said she understands, and thank you, Thầy. Thầy, dear Sanger, and everyone, my feeling when I practice, I feel like my practice is like a tire, a car tire. It keep rolling forward. Sometimes I'm not sure if I have the doubt or not, but from morning to night, when I wake up, when I sleep, I feel like it's like there's a force that push it forward and forward. When I work, I still think about work, but I also feel like my practice still continue to go forward. When I remember, then I raise the question. Sometimes when I forget to raise the question, I feel like I'm still on the way. I'm not sure how to explain it clearly. Could you please talk more about that? So when you put all of your mind on the practice, that is a good thing. It nurture your good seeds. The Buddha always advised all the practitioners, whether it's monastic or lay people, to always remember the three jewels, to always think about the three jewels. And that will help us to always remember about liberation. Our practice help us to not look outward, to not generate more discrimination. For example, to not um, like see other people is very rich and I'm poor, see they have things, I don't have things. And when we see it that way, we're always gonna suffering. For example, if we see we don't have any something, we will feel bad. If we see we have something, we feel, happy, etc. So um it it doesn't matter we have more or not. What important thing is doesn't matter what situation we are in, we don't put too much care about that. Instead, we focus more on the practice. And from there, we will not be sad about those things anymore, meaning we have less worries, less afflictions, less desire. Like all the skillful means that the Buddha gave us to is to teach everyone to always raise the body mind. And to raise the body mind is to raise the mind of having nothing to gain, and it's equal to no discrimination, no attachment. So the Dharma of the Buddha always help nurture us. We just need to continuously practice, even if we do it in a quiet state. If we stop practicing, then our common habits of ignorance and energy will start to arise and control us. Our patriarch said, when we practice, we start to have the way, and that way is the seed of enlightenment, of liberation. So, but remember, our patriarch saying meditation is still new. It's not simple and easy. It requires to have complete belief in the mind, and when the practice is uninterrupted, then your determination to liberate from birth and death will be raised. And when that determination is raised, we will never leave the practice. We will keep the practice from morning to night and reach the state of having now 24/7. And when we reach the fundamental chan, and we still need to continue to go forward. Like we are walking on the blade of a sword and not letting any time waste until we reach the right diligence and eventually reach Hoa Thou. Nothing can compare to the Dharma of liberation. And any conditions that is conducive to get us close to the Dharma, take advantage of all those conditions, never let them go, and combine your effort and also the support up until your determination of birth and death is fulfilled, just like Prince Siddhartha. When he reached that stage, he will be able to leave behind everything to find the path to liberation for himself and all sentient being. Nothing can challenge him. For us right now, doesn't matter how much we say, but when there's things that happen to our family, we tend to still be challenged. Not like Sakyamuni Buddha in the past. Doesn't matter what happened, it cannot deter his mind of liberation. So we have to be very careful, not going easy with our habits of ignorance. Thank you, thầy. Last time when I was meditating, I started to have some recognition. But when I know that my goal is to go all the way to enlightenment, so I have to put down those recognition. Is that a way to contemplating? Or for example, sometimes when I have certain thoughts, I recognize them and then I return to the practice. Is it that I um, put intention to do that? Thầy said, when you recognize that you're wandering away, you start go back to practice immediately. For example, right now with the phone with us, we can all the time we can call someone and talk to someone. But now when we start practicing, we prefer to talk about the practice instead of the worldly things. That is always an example of, looking forward to the practice and liberation. For example, the king in the past tend always invite the patriot to come and teach the Dharma to his officials and his family. In the past, the king has a lot of respects to those Zen masters, and they respect to all of those teachings of morality to the, for example, to the point that they bring those subject of morality, of philosophy, um, of psychology into their schedule. So all of the worldly dharma they are always within duality. Same thing for the outside dharma as well. But for the Buddha dharma, it's always lead to liberation. That's why we said Buddhism is not a religion, it's not a philosophy, it's not a, a theory, a principle, a subject to um, to to help satisfy people religious belief. So we can see that Buddhism is not a religion, it's not a subject of teaching, etc. The Buddha Dharma is very special. It's the way that leads to liberation. Therefore, there is nobody higher than anybody. Everybody is have the Buddha nature within them. When we raise the bodhicitta, the mind of ending attachment, we will do everything for others instead of for ourselves. Usually, why do we suffer? We suffer because we do everything for ourselves. We always prioritize our ego, and that leads us to a lot of afflictions. So in the past, our patriarch went into the palace to to teach the Dharma, to teach the Sutra, and use different kind of skillful means to help end the attachment of the people who were asking. Same thing for us now. When we apply the practice, we are also do it to lead us to in the direction of liberation. But if we do it without the teaching, then we can be lost, and therefore the Huatou is like the standard to help us stay on track instead of chasing after our thinking, our attachment, and forget about the practice. And when we meet the wise teachers or the Dharma friends that um, can help us practice well, we will appreciate even more than our family, because our Dharma friends will be the people that will stay with us on the path from illusion to awakening. And therefore, the Buddha said in his teaching to take the Bodhisattva as our friends. So when we communicate or when in our daily lives, always rely on the Buddha Dharma instead of rely on the worldly Dharma. That is a way of automatically contemplate anything that we come into contact will lead us up instead of trigger our ego and ignorance. She said she understands. Thank you, thầy. Nam mô A Di Đà Buddha, dear Thầy, Sangha, all practitioners. Recently, when I practice, I still raise the question. Sometimes I fall into the situation where I don't have the doubt, I don't have illusions. I fall into situation where I feel good, feel the quiescence. Is it that I'm falling into nothingness? Could you please explain more? Thầy said if there is no illusions and also there is no doubt, it means you fall into nothingness. But in reality, it's not that easy to fall into nothingness. As long as you have to raise the question, you will not fall into nothingness. Even though the doubt could not be raised, that question still help you remind the practice about the practice. So the Hoa Thou question is like a compass. It's like a map on our path. So we don't get lost or we don't get off track because of our ignorance and attachment. For example, when you experience anger or uncomfort, if you don't forget the raising the question, for example, where did I come before I was born? Where will I go after I die? Then you will gradually go back to the practice. For example, at that time, your anger is too strong. That's why the doubt cannot be raised. But once you come back to a normal state of mind, if you keep raise the question, the doubt will start be raised. When we feel like we're doing good, we do in right, it means we still have the object of gaining, because that is a challenge of knowing. But for a person who have a great determination of birth and death, they will, the minute that they still not awakened yet, they will still always think about a practice, even forget about eating and drinking. Sometimes to the point when they become really weak, it's because as long as they could not resolve their birth and death issue, they won't be able to sleep and eat well, and they always have to remember to practice. So thanks to the Hoa Thou question, we will not think about other thoughts. But remember, we don't use the practice to suppress other thoughts. Whatever thoughts happen, we leave them as is, and we just go back to raise the question. Have to find a way to never lose asking the question and raise the doubt. And even if we are not able to contemplate things yet, don't force ourselves to be able to contemplate everything. The Buddha has an example that later lead onto a story that doesn't matter whatever we do, we have to think about the consequence of our action. There were two friends. One of them did something to the scale for his benefits, and he always gained more when he used that scale. Doesn't matter when he buy or when he sell things. And he teach his friend that you should do like me, make change to your scale so that you can get rich faster. But his friend doesn't want to do that. He doesn't feel peaceful when trick, trick cheating on people. So the friend that fixed the scale quickly become rich, while the other friend just work normally and he doesn't want to be too greedy. So the friends that become rich fast, people start to question him and then bring him to the court, and he was put in jail and eventually lose all of his assets. So doesn't matter what we do, we have to think about the consequence. So contemplation means when we see anything, hear anything, don't put your attachment and ego in there. When you practice well, you will be able to see everything clearly. You will not want to cheat on other people or do harmful things to other people. So the practice will help you see everything yourself. So the wise people will be able to see it in advance, while a people that are not wise will only see things when they experience the consequence. So try your best to maintain your practice and maintain your mind to be straight. If you feel like you are not at the level to be able to raise the personal contemplation, then rely on the three jewels, rely on the wise teacher, ask them for question. The time is up. Goodbye, everyone. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha.